The amazing Terry Pratchett once wrote, "There's always a story. It's all stories, really. The sun coming up every day is a story. Everything's got a story in it. Change the story, change the world." As Pratchett suggests, we do well to pay attention to the stories we are telling ourselves about the world we live in and the world we long to live into. Last week we talked about Star Wars and the power of hope. One of the things we saw in those stories is how resistance shows up against the forces of empire. Star Wars is a form of dystopian fiction. Dystopian literature offers a bleak perspective of the future. Things have gone wrong, and now we need to work to make it better. Good dystopian fiction will go one better to reveal what has gone wrong now, not just in some imagined future. It will be about our present condition more than anything else. Today, I want to talk about some utopian fiction, and in a similar vein, good utopian fiction will reveal not just some imagined happy future, but how we are living with the seeds of that future even today. Change the story, change the world. The story I'm excited about this morning is about robots. I will confess, I've never been a huge fan of robot-based fiction. And upon reflection, I think that has to do with the way robots have been portrayed in science fiction over the years. One of the things about stories is how they have a surface level entertainment and a deeper level of impact. On the surface, the story about robots may be a fun exploration of technology and imagination. On a deeper level, robots offer a mirror to explore what it means to be human. When science fiction leans into a character who is non-human, the author is able to help the reader better understand what it means to be human. Isaac Asimov offered a classic version of robot stories. For Asimov, robots were an exploration into ethics and logic and the hope of a better future for humanity based on ethics and logic. Asimov wrote his robots as tools or servants for humanity. And while he did critique that premise in some ways, that was the premise. Robots were the perfect servants. Later versions of this genre had robots take up different roles. Think about the robot from the Lost in Space series. Danger, danger, right? The robot was a powerful and loyal piece of equipment. Think about the Terminator, who was really just a weapon. And then remember how most advances in drone technology are rooted in military research these days. Think about the droids in Star Wars, who were really just a plot device and sometimes comic relief. And then think about the way Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek portrays the character of Data as a sentient being with relationships and a unique place in the crew. Data was the first, and until recently, the only robot I enjoyed. The Monk and Robot series by Becky Chambers offers a radically different robot from the loyal equipment or perfect servant of earlier versions of this literary mirror. Where Asimov's robots were essentially tools of humanity and society, Chambers' robots are peers with humanity, seeking purpose and community. Where Asimov's robots were stand-ins for a conversation about racism and law, Chambers' robots are conversation partners on the topic of freedom and liberation. And most alluring to me is that freedom is not an either-or scenario. It's not an apocalyptic uprising of the machines. They do rise up, but their freedom frees the humans too. And that is how this story changes the mirror of what robots reveal about what it means to be human. The description on the inside jacket of the book, categorized as cozy science fiction, tells us this. It's been centuries since the robots of Panga gained self-awareness and laid down their tools. Centuries since they wandered en masse into the wilderness, never to be seen again. Centuries since they faded into myth and urban legend. One day, the life of a tea monk is upended by the arrival of a robot, there to honor the old promise of checking in. The robot has one question. What do people need? But the answer to that question depends on who you ask and how. They're going to need to ask it a lot. How would you answer? What do you need? I mentioned near the beginning of this that it's a utopian story. Part of the premise of this book is that it begins that the people have already resolved their basic needs. There is no poverty, no inequity or injustice leading to homelessness or hunger. It's a society in which everyone's basic needs are met. In a world where people have what they want, what more do we need? In the second book, there's a scene where the robot Moscap first comes to a community and asks its question, what do you need? And the small town of people who turned up to see this oddity of a robot were confused by the question at first. Nobody quite knew how to respond. After a long pause, a bearded man piped up from the back of the crowd, well, I need the door on my house fixed. It's a bit drafty. Sometimes it's hard to think beyond the immediate needs of our daily rounds. What do you need? Maybe not what do you need help with. Maybe not what do you need a robot to do for you, because I don't have a robot tucked away up here in the pulpit with me. And I'm not very good at fixing that drafty doorway for you. So what do you need? What do you need really? I imagine many answers in our current situation would land in the category of righting a wrong, answering an injustice, fixing a gross inequity. I need ambulance rides to be fully covered by insurance and for teachers to be valued more than celebrities. I need oligarchs and abusers to be held accountable and removed from power. I need my society to really care for the well-being of all people in our society. So, if that were all accomplished, as is suggested in our little novel about a tea monk and their robot friend, then what would you need? Pretend we've solved all of those injustices, and we live in, like Starfleet type of universe. What do you need? This begins to drift into theological territory. What is the human condition? Many theologies are built around an assumption of sin and fallenness and how awful we are compared to God and what God expects of us, and I don't have time for that sort of sour thinking. Yes, we are imperfect and broken, but not in a sinful or bad way worthy of judgment. We're imperfect and broken the way that all the world is. I believe our human condition is one in which we need to be loved, and we are loved. We may forget this truth, or trauma can chase this truth from our knowing, but we are. I believe our human condition is one in which we are intrinsically part of the holiness that pervades the whole universe. We're interconnected. Thus, what I need is not only what I need, but what we need. And we need each other. I think any answer to the question, what do people need, must include the answer, each other. We need mutual thriving. In this story I'm inviting you to read, the author makes multiple references to our need for each other. It shows up when the story talks about various things from interdependent ecosystems to friendships. What do people need? Each other. One of the characters is a robot. the mirror of humanity, revealing a deep truth about ourselves. The robot brings the question, raises thoughtful and emotionally mature responses and reflections that it hears, based on what it hears from the humans. The other character is Dex, a tea monk. Let me tell you a little bit about the work of a tea monk. Dex, the tea monk, travels from town to town helping people. They set up a small booth in the town market. When they arrive, the booth has comfortable places to sit and relax, and it has tea. People visit a tea monk to talk through things that they're struggling with. Maybe it's a grief or a confusion. Perhaps they just need to talk through a decision that they have to make. Usually people simply need a bit of companionship and a space to relax. Dex offers people empathy, and they offer a cup of tea. Dex gives people what they need. What do people need? The robot asks. And both the tea monk and the robot are in the business of figuring out what people need. And perhaps it's your business as well. Maybe the question isn't, what do you need? But what do people need? Each other, certainly. In a cozy science fiction story where people's basic needs are met, where folks don't have to fight against empire or join the resistance, they still need things. Surprisingly, what people need to fight empire is also what people need in this monk and robot story: mutual thriving. Later, during the book discussion I'm planning in January, we will talk more about mutual thriving, as well as topics of economy, ecology, freedom, pleasure, our relationship with nature and with technology, as well as the meaning of life. And I'll serve tea, I promise. For now, I leave you that question to ponder. What do we need? May you uncover surprising answers as you wind your way through this holiday season. In a world without end, may it be so. I'm going to raise